Hey y'all, today we're going to talk about heating elements and SCRs. There's two kinds. There is 120 volt, some of y'all call 110, but somewhere back in the day they changed the 110 to 120 here in America. And then there's 240 volt, which some of you guys call 220. I do it sometimes too. We changed, there's 10 more volts. So it's really 120, 240. I get that confused all the time too. But either way, there's, let's first start by saying, if you ever put this in anything and it's not submerged with liquid, it will burn up in a matter of seconds. If you ever pull this out and it's black, it's because you did something wrong. Straight up. I'm not saying there hasn't been one to fail, but how often do hot water heaters fail? These are the same type of elements that go in hot water heaters. I've used this one for 2 years and it's still shiny because I use it properly. I'm not saying anything. I'm just trying to tell you that if you don't know that bit of information, you will burn your element up really quick. I mean, a matter of seconds. If you want to check that, go drain your hot water heater out and then turn it on. You'll be putting a new element in it in a matter of, a matter of seconds. It will burn out. It will turn black. There'll be crusty metal flakes on it because this has to be submerged. There is a large amount of electricity and watts and amps running through this. It gets really hot, and in order to not do that, it always has to be in liquid. So never turn this on unless you got mash in your pot, unless you got some wine in there, some liquid. So never turn this on unless you got liquid covering the entire thing. And if you run down too low, which you shouldn't. I mean, you should never be running that low and you're still. I mean, you could run to 10 proof and still have plenty of liquid, unless you're running wrong. I don't know, but you should never run this dry. And another thing is you should never put a bunch of grain in there. You're less likely to, because it sits off the bottom. Put grain in your pot, it's going to go to the bottom, right? So you're less likely to scorch. However, if you put a bunch of grain in there and a piece of corn or something sticks to this, it will scorch to that, and it'll be nasty. Other than that, these things are pretty easy to maintain. Every once in a while, pull it out. For the most part, you can just spray it off with a hose. But, every once in a while, you take some Scotch-Brite to it, clean it up. And also, there's a lot of confusion about 120 volt SCR boxes. 120 volt SCR box, you're going to run one element from it. It's not enough electricity to run two 2,000 watt elements. You could run two 1,000 watt elements. Also, if you're running on a 15 amp breaker, right? But there's other things running on that 15 amp breaker, you're only going to be able to pull enough electricity or else you're going to kick that breaker off. It's not a problem with the box. It's a problem with the amount of electricity that you have to you. So if you're running on a 15 amp breaker, you might want to get a dedicated outlet that's just for this. Or get a different breaker that's bigger, 20 amp or something. I have the same problem. Every time I run this out here, and I'm having my electrical upgraded today, as a matter of fact. But the problem is I'll run this and I can only pull 10 amps because I have all this other stuff in my kitchen ran off the same breaker. So what I got to do is I got to go through the house, turn everything off, and if I'm lucky, I can get 12 amps out of it. Anytime I go above 12, kicks the breaker. The kids come home from school and I'm running liquor out in the garage. they run that air fryer, kicks every time. That is not a problem with the box. There's a problem with your electrical. You need to upgrade or turn everything else off. That's all it is. I know this has 2 outlets, but if you're running a 2000 watt, you're only going to be able to run one. This is a 2000 watt element. I ran this thing yesterday and had the same problem. I called my electric guy and I'm like, I need a dedicated 120 volt outlet. I would run it, but my fat ass ain't getting in that attic to run the line. You know what I mean? But that's about it. It's pretty simple, you know. Pretty easy to once you understand that shit. You know, pop that in there and run some liquor. I gotta make this video because a lot of people keep blowing these elements. And that's the key factor to not blowing it, is to always have liquid completely over it. I mean, I don't know. That's all I got really, man. Pretty easy to run outside of that. Now, also, thinking like, you got a 2000 watt element, right? And if you're running 15 amps times, let's do the math on this. Let's see, calculator. Hey Siri, calculator. Okay. So if you're pulling 13, let's say 13 amps times 120 volts. That's 1560 watts. You know what I mean? So you're only going to push that much power through this if you're getting 13 amps. This maxes out. This will show you how much amps you could get if you turn it all the way up. So if you're getting 15 amps, which is the entire bit of electricity on that breaker available, times 120 equals, that's 1800. It's 1800 watts. So you know, that's how it works. You're only going to get as much power through it as that's available. Like for my 240 volt, I got on average about 21 amps. I've seen it pop up to 23 amps before. That's what's coming through your box. That's what you're getting. That's what you're going to output. You're not going to get more than what you're getting from your electrical. So to expect that out of these boxes, they're not magical. There's you know, they're governed by rules. You can only give what you're getting. They're pretty easy to use. It's pretty easy to maintain them. Actually, it's easier than running. I was a little nervous when I first switched to electric. Started playing electric. I use fire still. I do both. I got multiple stills, but the first time I went to use electrical elements in my still, I was nervous. I was a little scared, but I was worried, and I got over it. And I love it. It's awesome. If you want to run this way, it's very easy to control and regulate everything. It's just the expectation and someone thinking like, I had to make this video because people burn up elements because they run them dry. And people get one of these and their breaker kicks. And they're like, the element's bad, or the SCR's bad. You got too much electrical running, that's all. Other than that, these things are great. I've built these for the last year. I'm really good at it. I even CNC them. And one thing I've only had 2 of them come back, and that's because the potentiometer's in them. And in that case, I send one right back out, and I tell them, I send them a return label, and they send it back. But I actually had 2 of these come back because of the potentiometer, and I rebuilt both of them, but sent out new boxes. And then I had a 240 volt come back because the switch went bad. Which, you know, a lot of these parts they are what they are. Everybody, you only got access to that switch. You only got access to this potentiometer. And a lot of the parts are made in China. But they all run pretty good for the most part. And anything that comes through here is guaranteed. So if you need any of this stuff, philbillymoonshine.com or, you know, Copper Steel Co. They're available through those guys too. So whatever you want to do. I'm rambling today. I don't know what the fuck's wrong with me. I'm rambling. That's it. That's all I got. Have a nice day. Bye-bye. All right, I almost forgot to tell you. If you're running a 240 volt box, you could call it 220, 240, whatever. It's all the same. You're going to need at least a 30 amp breaker. If you're running a dual box, you're going to need a 50 amp breaker. And if you're running a 120 volt box, then you're going to need at least a 15 amp. Like I said, you're going to want it to be dedicated. You're going to want it to be dedicated. And if it's not dedicated, then everything else that's running on that breaker, you're going to turn off. And don't run an air fryer on the same breaker, or a microwave. Microwave you might be able to get away with. I don't know. Just depends how much amps you're pushing through your 120 volt box. But at the end of the day, as long as you understand it, going electric's pretty awesome. If you need anything, let me know. philbillymoonshine.com. If it's not on the website, let me know. I could build it. These aren't on the website. I'm not sure if I'm going to put them on there yet or not. This is a dual I built for a buddy of mine. There's a lot to them. And it's kind of a pain in the ass to build. But I might put some of these on the website. I'm not sure yet. But that's a little information about running electricity and SCRs. If you need anything or have any questions, just give me a holler. See y'all later.